Mr. Chairman, thank you kindly. Our committee's purpose is to ensure that government is effectively delivering on its promises to the American people. And as the new ranking member, I'm eager to work with you and the rest of the committee in carrying out this shared responsibility in a thorough, serious, nonpartisan, and even-handed way. When I heard that our first hearing would spotlight pandemic relief programs, I was pleased because I thought it would follow up on everything the Democratic majority had been doing in the 117th Congress since COVID-19 began. I was hopeful for an opportunity to consider together how we can identify schemes of fraud and self-enrichment, ripping off the taxpayers, and continue to strengthen the structural efficiency of critical government programs that help families and businesses across America meet the challenges of the pandemic. Just as the political system and the campaign finance system have recently been proven shockingly vulnerable to imposters, hustlers, conmen, big liars, outright fraudsters, and fakes, some of the programs developed to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic have proven vulnerable to the relentless, deceitful, and fraudulent designs of criminal predators when they too decide to exploit the generosity of the American people. The traditional language of waste, fraud, and abuse does not quite capture the confidence games and organized criminal artifices and schemes that have targeted and exploited relief programs built on the solidarity and goodwill of the American people. The House Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus, which was chaired in the last Congress by then Majority Whip Clyburn, in which I served on, led the effort to identify and combat these criminal actors. The subcommittee conducted no fewer than 7 hearings focused on rooting out fraud in relief programs. I will never forget how under Chairman Clyburn's leadership, in our first week or two of existence, the subcommittee recovered an improper $10 million Paycheck Protection Program loan. Less than 3 months later, we helped secure the return of $109 million from a nursing home chain that was not using the loan as Congress had specifically intended. In March of 2021, we exposed how the Trump administration's reckless mismanagement of small business relief programs and refusal to implement basic anti-fraud controls led to nearly $84 billion in fraudulent loans. Just months later, we issued another report highlighting how the Trump administration awarded $95.7 million in pandemic food box program funds to 3 companies that all raised severe red flags. Then again, in April of 2022, we showed how Trump White House officials overruled career Department of Defense officials to approve a $700 million national security loan to a single company in violation of legal requirements, and so on. We used the spotlight and bully pulpit of a small subcommittee to expose and reverse colossal frauds taking place against the American people. While I remain optimistic that this hearing can meaningfully explore ways to ensure that taxpayer dollars go where intended, I confess I'm troubled that some of our colleagues seem to want to cherry-pick facts and deploy distorted figures to attack the underlying legitimacy of the programs themselves, the programs that were a lifeline and salvation for millions of businesses and families across the country. Recall that while the former president denied, trivialized, and dismissed the COVID-19 pandemic, it was Congress which acted responsibly and swiftly and in bipartisan fashion to create and supercharge programs that saved countless businesses and families from bankruptcy and ruin. These programs included expanded unemployment insurance benefits and the PPP program, which empowered families and businesses to avoid economic collapse. As a result of our actions, the COVID-19 economic recession was the shortest on record. The programs were by no means perfect. Antique government IT systems, many running on obsolete software, collapsed and were incapable of adapting to the scope of the crisis. States entered the pandemic at a 50-year low for unemployment insurance system funding, and UI claims burgeoned from 211,000 to 6.6 million, a 3,000% increase over a three-week period in March of 2020. People unsure of how they would pay their housing or medical bills panicked as they waited hours on phone calls for customer service representatives or reached endless busy signals in unemployment insurance purgatory. My home state of Maryland was no exception. In the one-year period from March 2020 until March 2021, my district office received 1,400 anguished constituent requests for help with unemployment. This is in contrast to one constituent request we received in all of 2019. Congress asked agencies and states to do the near impossible, and they did their very best. Expanded UI benefits kept an estimated 5 to 6 million people out of poverty in 2020 and 6.7 million people above the poverty line in 2021. The Center for Budget and Policy Priorities estimates that expanded benefits may have saved the lives of as many as 27,000 people in high-risk occupations who may have died from COVID had they not had access to benefits. Organized criminals and fraudsters took advantage of these circumstances by exploiting weaknesses in our IT systems. This problem was compounded by critical decisions made by the Trump administration that hamstrung pandemic relief anti-corruption oversight from the very outset, crippling the government's ability to detect fraud. Despite specific legislative instruction from Congress in our pandemic relief bills, the Trump administration regularly told agencies to ignore data reporting requirements. But congressional Democrats and the Biden administration have worked diligently from the start to recover funds stolen by organized criminal groups and other fraudsters, help states modernize their IT systems, and build new structural capacities to detect and prevent fraud. Under President Biden's leadership, departments and agencies across the government moved swiftly to strengthen program integrity and bolster efforts to prevent, detect, and pursue fraud, which festered under the lackadaisical stewardship of the prior administration. In the days preceding this hearing, Republicans have claimed that Democrats on this committee and in the Biden administration neglected to conduct meaningful oversight of these programs. The record demonstrates these assertions are baseless. Democrats have systematically ferreted out fraud, waste, and abuse in pandemic relief, although we all can certainly be doing a much more effective job, and that's what this hearing should be about. As the work of the 118th Congress commences, I urge all of my colleagues across the aisle and on our side to remember the crucial role this committee must play in eliminating fraudulent schemes by imposters in order to protect the integrity of the programs that we adopt and that America needs. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to yield back.